Get away from that cage now! I'm not afraid of him.
When a blind teenage girl stepped toward the kennel, housing the most violent police dog in the facility, panic erupted. "That's Titan's cage!" an officer shouted, scrambling toward her. But Allison, calm and fearless, simply turned toward the sound of savage growling and whispered, "I'm not afraid of him." That's how Allison met Titan, the most feared dog in the precinct. Before we dive deeper, if this story is giving you chills, hit like and subscribe. And I'm curious, where are you watching from? Drop your country in the comments below. I love seeing how these stories of courage and compassion reach people around the world. Now, back to Allison and Titan. Titan had once been a legend, an elite canine officer, the best on the force. Swift, loyal, unstoppable. But after a violent raid where his handler was killed in front of him, something inside Titan shattered. He became a weapon without aim, lashing out at anyone who came near. 2 trainers bore scars from trying to reach him. His file was stamped in bold red, "Aggressive, do not approach." Every day, he sat alone in his steel kennel, muscles coiled, eyes hollow, growling at shadows. Volunteers whispered about him in hushed tones. They said he was too far gone, broken beyond saving. Until that Tuesday afternoon when Allison arrived, her white cane tapping lightly against the polished floor. She hadn't come for Titan, not at first. Marissa had brought her to the training center to learn about guide dogs, to meet the gentle, well-mannered labs and retrievers that greeted visitors with wagging tails. But while other dogs nuzzled her hands and licked her fingers, Allison's attention drifted towards something else, a deep, guttural sound coming from the far end of the corridor. "What about him?" she asked, turning her face toward the darkness. Marissa's breath caught. "Allison, that's not a good idea." Allison's lips curved into a faint smile. "I just want to talk to him." The officers exchanged glances. No one had ever said that before. Talk to him, as if words could reach a dog that had forgotten what kindness sounded like. Slowly, reluctantly, they guided her forward. With every step closer to Titan's kennel, the air grew heavier. The hallway fell silent except for the rhythmic tap of Allison's cane against concrete. Born blind, she'd learned early to read the world through sound, touch, and intuition. Where others saw danger, she felt something deeper, pain disguised as rage. "Allison, wait!" Marissa's voice trembled as they neared the steel bars. "That's Titan! He's dangerous!" Allison paused, her head tilting toward the low, menacing growl that made seasoned officers step back. Maybe he just needs someone who isn't afraid of him. Behind them, 2 officers whispered urgently. "He attacked 2 trainers after his partner died," one muttered. "She shouldn't be anywhere near that cage." But Allison had already moved closer, guided only by the sound of Titan's ragged breathing. Through the bars, she could hear his claws scraping metal, his body tense and coiled. She stopped just inches from the gate. "It's okay," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I'm not here to hurt you." The hallway held its breath. Titan's growling stopped. Titan hadn't always been this way. Once, he'd been the pride of the canine unit. Fearless, precise, unstoppable. His handler, Officer Chen, called him a hero. Together, they'd closed dozens of cases, saved countless lives. But during a raid on a drug operation 18 months ago, everything changed. Chen was shot protecting a civilian. Titan watched his partner fall, helpless to stop it. From that moment, the legendary canine became uncontrollable. His file now bore a single damning label: untrainable. Do not approach. Allison understood that kind of loss. She'd lost her sight in a car accident at age 8, the same crash that took her father. The darkness that followed nearly consumed her, but unlike Titan, she'd found her way back to light, refusing to let trauma define her future. Now, watching nervously, handlers whispered, If he gets near her, Allison, oblivious to their fear, pressed her palm against the cold steel bars. Sometimes we only bite because we're scared, she said quietly. Inside the kennel, Titan's ears twitched. Allison took a hesitant step forward. The tap of her cane echoed through the tense silence, a steady rhythm in a room holding its breath. Titan exploded. He lunged at the gate, snarling viciously, his claws scraping metal with ear-splitting shrieks. Officers rushed forward, hands reaching for tranquilizer guns. Marissa grabbed Allison's arm, pulling her back. But Allison didn't retreat. "Hey there, big guy," she said, her voice impossibly steady. "It's just me." Through the bars, Titan's massive frame trembled. His shoulders were rigid, muscles coiled like springs. His eyes, wild and dilated, darted between the officers and the girl who refused to fear him. Saliva dripped from bared fangs. And then, something shifted. His growl faltered, weakened. For the first time since Chen's death, the rage had flickered. Their breathing synchronized. Ragged inhales, slow exhales. Girl and dog, caught in the same suspended moment. Handlers exchanged baffled looks. Marissa whispered, tears streaming down her face, "Why isn't he attacking?" Slowly, carefully, Allison lowered herself to her knees. Guided only by sound and instinct, she reached toward the bars. "You must be tired of being angry," she whispered. Titan's body stilled. The gate creaked as Allison rested her hand against the cold metal bars. Titan tensed. Every muscle in his body coiled. Officers gripped their tranquilizer guns tighter, fingers hovering over triggers. This was it, the moment he would strike. But then, silence. Time seemed to slow. Titan's trembling body leaned forward, inch by cautious inch, until his scarred muzzle pressed gently against Allison's outstretched palm. Gasps filled the room. Allison's breath hitched. A tear rolled down her cheek as a smile broke across her face. "See," she whispered, her voice cracking with emotion. "You're not a monster. You're just scared, like me." Titan exhaled, a long, shuddering breath that seemed to carry months of grief and rage. Slowly, impossibly, his wild eyes closed. For the first time since Chen died, the feared police dog knew peace. Marissa covered her mouth, sobbing quietly. Officers stood frozen, witnessing something they'd thought impossible. The untrainable dog had finally been reached. Days turned into weeks. Allison returned to the facility every afternoon. Now Titan waited by the gate, ears perked, alert, listening for the distinct tap, tap, tap of her cane echoing down the corridor. The moment he heard it, his tail would lift slightly, a small gesture that stunned everyone who witnessed it. Officers gathered at a distance, watching in silent awe as Allison sat cross-legged outside his kennel, telling him stories. She spoke of light she'd never seen, music that painted colors in her mind, and fears she'd conquered in darkness. With each visit, his growls lessened. His tail began to wag, tentatively at first, then with growing confidence. Titan responded only to her voice now. Even experienced trainers stepped aside, recognizing something they couldn't replicate. The bond forming between the broken girl and the shattered dog transcended training or technique. Marissa watched from the hallway one afternoon, wiping tears from her eyes. "It's like they saved each other," she whispered. And perhaps, in the truest sense, they had. 6 months later, autumn sunlight filtered through golden leaves in Riverside Park. Allison walked confidently along the winding path, a magnificent German shepherd moving in perfect sync beside her. Titan, no longer the feared beast of the K9 unit, but her guide, her protector, her friend. His leash hung loose, almost decorative. He didn't need it. Every step matched hers flawlessly, pausing at curbs, guiding her around obstacles, his training instincts reborn through love rather than discipline. At a distance, officers from the precinct watched, shaking their heads in smiling disbelief. They'd come to see the miracle for themselves. Marissa stood among them, voice thick with pride. The beast they feared has become her eyes. Titan's ears swiveled at the sound of children laughing nearby. Once that noise would have triggered aggression. Now his tail wagged gently. His eyes, no longer wild or hollow, reflected calm certainty. A once trembling warrior, reborn through trust. As they disappeared around a bend, Marissa whispered to no one in particular, "Sometimes the blind see what the rest of us are too fearful to look for, the good that still lives inside the broken."